Great.
Hoshi.
Thanks very much, Sarah. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's amazing to see so many people interested in this topic. So it's really encouraging. So my name is Oisin. I am an associate professor at the University of Edinburgh in the UK. And so my group primarily works on, let's say, core machine learning and computer vision problems. But we work then from that on applications in biodiversity monitoring, and we take inspiration from those problems sometimes and try and adapt them back into the machine learning and computer vision space. So there's some examples here of some of the projects that we work on. For example, here in the top left, we've got a strand of projects on human-in-the-loop AI. So for example, one of those projects involves developing algorithms to help humans learn. So it's not machine learning in the conventional sense, it's machine teaching. So developing algorithms so that we can help humans, for example, learn how to identify species and images themselves. Also could be to teach doctors, for example, how to detect different diseases and images. And moving along here on the top right, apologies if you hear some sirens in the background. In the top right, we've got questions related to fine-grained vision. So this is a project actually with Sarah and her group. So we're looking at developing models that can enable users to search with arbitrary text strings. So for example, like the instance you see here, and then retrieve relevant images from huge image collections of millions of images. So basically to try and supercharge biodiversity understanding and collation of kind of knowledge from big data sets. In the bottom right here, we've got an example of computer vision, 3D vision. So with a lot of my students working on kind of core 3D vision tasks. So things like taking collections of images and learning how to extract deformable 3D meshes and shapes from them. So that's something that I'm super excited about and interested in. And in the bottom right here, we have an orthogonal, completely different problem, which is mapping species across the planet. So we've been developing models to predict the spatial locations that species would occur in, and to try and develop these models in the context of deep learning systems that would allow us to model these distributions for tens of thousands of species together. So that's kind of a flavor of kind of some of the projects that my group work on. Just because I think that there are actually later on today some other faculty members from the UK, but maybe just to give a bit of perspective on the UK PhD setup. So they're typically shorter than the US. So oftentimes an average PhD is around 3.5 years in duration, and that's fully funded. And then the students are kind of focused on their research. So there's no requirements for TAing, or you don't have to do class or kind of qualifying exams and so on. Typically, our students will come in with masters already. In Europe, that is often like a 1 year. Well, UK, it's a 1 year master's. Other places that might be 2 year masters. And then funding is competitive for international students, but we have lots of opportunities as well. And so, you know, if you are potentially interested in this space, and certainly if you're interested in it in the context of the UK, do reach out. So, for example, for September 25 starts, you should be aiming to kind of get in contact, maybe an email now just to start the discussions, and then applications will be due later in the year. Some of you might have heard of ELIS, this European Laboratory of Learning and Intelligent Systems. So this is a really cool initiative. And so I actually am a member of ELIS as well and co-supervised students. So if you've heard of that, that might ring a bell, and that's something to think about. So you've got my website info and contact info on the bottom there. And actually, I've got a picture here of Edinburgh. I've got to say Edinburgh is a beautiful city and a great place to live as well. And so with that, I will move on to the next person. And then for the interest of the faculty members who are going to go next, so I'm going to drive the slide, so you'll have to say next to me a lot, so apologies for that. And what I'll do is I'll time you. So if it is getting over 3 minutes, I'll basically just, maybe I'll start raising the red flag like this, or I will just chime in. But so apologies in advance if I do rush you, but we've got a lot of people to get through.